Medusa. It never really occurred to me, though, to take my writing and to take my teaching and put them together. The thing that changed that for me was when I had kids of my own. In 1994, Attack of the Children. I know. That's Haley, my oldest son. He doesn't look like that anymore. And I know you're probably thinking, Haley, I thought that was a girl's name. Well, no. Actually, it's an Irish boy's name, like Riley, Shannon, Carrie. But over the years, it got turned into a girl's name. We had no way of knowing that the year he was born, it would become the most popular girl's name of all time.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, kid, but he's cool with it. It means ingenious. You know, it's a family name. He likes it, all right. Man, Haley was a handful. This kid, I tell you what, he doesn't look like trouble, but he was trouble. One time I remember, what was he doing? He was like playing with the laundry, and there was this like floor grate, you know those like furnaces that have grates on the floor, and the flames are coming up? And something happened, he dumped Cheerios down there. And they caught fire. And his mom and I were running around screaming, looking for the fire extinguisher. We got the extinguisher, and we're like, Haley thought that was cool. He wanted to see that again. So we found this basket of clean laundry. He dumped it on the grate. He went over to the thermostat and he turned it up to 95. We came into the room, there was smoke billowing out of the room. Yeah, that's the kind of easy kid I had. There he is hanging upside down. But you know, school was the tough thing for him. Like me, he was a reluctant reader. He really hated school. That's him in his little school uniform. About the only thing that he liked, they did this one unit on Greek mythology. He loved that. That's him being Hades, Lord of the Dead. It was like a wax museum where you go and you press a little button at their feet and they had these lines that they were supposed to say, I am Hades, Lord of the Dead, etc., etc. And so when he got really, really tired of school, I finally said, okay, man, let me see if I can keep you interested. You guys, you like Greek mythology? I teach Greek mythology. Let me tell you some stories. I told him all the Greek myths about Zeus and Poseidon and Hades and all the different gods. And eventually, I ran out of stories, which is kind of a bummer. He said, hey, Dad, tell me another Greek myth tonight. I said, well, there aren't any more. They haven't made any new ones in 2,000 years. He said, well, why don't you make one up? I said, well, okay, all right. So off the top of my head, I made up this kid named Peter Johnson. No. I made him a son of Poseidon. I gave him ADHD and dyslexia because my son has those. And I wanted him to be able to relate to Percy. And so I told him this adventure about how Percy has to go find a lightning bolt and bring it back to Mount Olympus and all of that. And he really liked the story. He said, Dad, write it down. Sorry. I said, man, I don't have time. I'm already writing a book a year. I teach full-time. He said, no, I don't care, Dad. You need to write it down. Okay, fine. I wrote it down and it became The Lightning Thief. Now, at first, I didn't know what to do with this. I was embarrassed, so I sent it off to New York under a pseudonym. I didn't want anyone to know it was me. I figured they'd reject it. Well, right away, an agent in New York said yes. That's my agent, Nancy Gall. She sent it off to Disney Publishing, and my first editor there, Jennifer Besser, loved the book. She said, oh, this is awesome. Let's go for it. The first thing about the book, though, we have to design a really great cover. Covers are important. And so she said, what do you think of that? I said, wow, that's awful. What else you got? So they hired a different artist in LA who does the covers for video games. This was his first idea for a cover. And then it got refined to that. And actually, that was the first cover. If you sometimes see an old hardcover of The Lightning Thief, it'll have that cover on it. But I didn't really like it still. And so I decided, let's keep trying. They found a new artist, a guy named John Rocco.
Woohoo!
Yeah, He sketched something on a napkin. We said, that's awesome. And so we made the new cover, and the Lightning Thief, when it first came out, came out. The weird thing is, though, every country gets to decide what their cover is going to look like. It doesn't look the same all over the world. Publishers think that kids in their country might like something different than the American kids do. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. Here is the Lightning Thief in Korean. Here it is in Swedish.
What's that?
I'm not really sure what that guy's doing. It is to get over here. The Lightning Thief in French. I thought I would read this when it came out because I took French in college, and I figured, well, I wrote the book, how hard can it be, right?
Hard.
I looked at the title, I couldn't get past it. I was like, Le Folie, Le Folie. Doesn't that mean the watcher of goat cheese? They tell me it means the Lightning Thief, so I hope they're right. Some of these, they look like they were done for like 20 bucks on, Photoshop. That's the Ukrainian Percy Jackson. That's the thing. Looks like Percy goes to Candyland. Here's the Romanian cover. Yeah! I don't know what it says, but it looks like Percy Jackson in the Hotel of Rudy. But I gotta say, probably my favorite is the German cover. Man, they warned me the Germans are very serious people and they like serious covers. No humor. And so I said, okay, all right. Okay, show me. And so they showed me the serious German cover. But I always knew that I wanted to do more than one book. I like reading series, and I wanted Percy to get older during the series. I knew I wanted him to go from 12 to 16, because then there was this big prophecy that would happen at the end of the series. So the second book, The Sea of Monsters, again, got a lot of different cover treatments. Here is the cover, that's Vietnamese, Sea of Monsters. There's the Italian one. The Italians are always real fashionable, everybody's always wearing a hoodie. And there's the great... At this point, my younger son, Patrick, got into the act. At first, he was like, no, I don't want anything to do with the Percy Jackson series. That's Haley's deal. I don't want any part of it. But finally, he said, okay, Dad, I'm old enough. We can read these together. Now, it's not like I'd never read with Patrick. There's little Patrick. We read a lot when he was little. That's our favorite book, Everyone Poops. It's a one, if you haven't read it, I won't tell you how it comes out at the end. It's a great book. Anyway, one time I took him to a school presentation that I was doing, and he heard what I wrote, and he said, oh, that's what you write? Oh, that sounds cool. Okay. And so after that, I would read both to both the boys. Every time I had a new manuscript, they heard it first. The first one that we did that with was The Titan's Curse. This was a hard cover to get right. John Rocco did a whole bunch of sketches. There's this first one, the second one, this third one. And they were fine, but not really what I wanted. And then finally he came up with this idea of just a Pegasus looking out over... Probably one of my favorite ones. I still remember the first time I showed people this cover. I was in Austin, Texas. I had blown it up to billboard size. I was so proud. I came out before the middle schoolers and I was like, oh, behold, the Titan's Curse! This kid in the audience went, Look, he's riding a hippo! And then another kid was like, no, it's not a hippo, Mr. Ryder, that's a moose. So, just so we're clear, that's a war moose, okay? That's a Pegasus. War moose, Pegasus. Okay. In the UK, it was even stranger. I call it Attack of the Ketchup. I don't know. There's a food fight in the series, so I guess that's why they put that in there. But now they've changed it so in the UK it looks like more like the American one. Not that. And then I thought that the Percy Jackson series was wrapping up with 2 more books, which was the 4th one, The Battle of the Labyrinth. I was happy with that. By the way, though, the covers now have changed. I don't know if you've seen them, but John Rocco, the original artist, did a new look at them. So now, if you pick up Percy Jackson, they make this huge mural. They look like that. But I wasn't done writing. There were more things I wanted to write. I started with an idea that Scholastic Books gave to me called the 39 Clues. Really fun. I like that. And in fact, that one starts here in Boston. There's this scene down in Copley Square. And these 2 kids, Amy and Dan, find out that there's this fortune, and they have a choice. They can take $1 million cash, or they can take a clue. If they take the clue, they have a chance to win untold power and fame by finding the family's secret formula that has made them so powerful over the centuries. But it's not a guarantee. And so, of course, they take the chance, and they launch themselves on the scavenger hunt across the world. That was pretty cool. I wrote the first one, and then different authors came and wrote the other ones in the series. So it was cool to see who would pick up the story where and what they did with the characters. And then I decided, you know, I always liked Egypt. That's probably my other favorite mythology. So I wrote a story called The King Incarnate. If you have read some of the crossover stories, like the Staff of Serapis, the Son of that the 3rd crossover story is coming out soon, The Crown of Ptolemy. It comes out with Percy, Annabeth, Carter, and Sadie. But the Egyptians, there's a look at their covers all over the world. There's German and Korean, and I think that's Ukrainian, I want to say. And there's the Italian. They're always so cool. I would totally fight you, but it would mess up my hair. But I always knew I wanted to go back to Percy Jackson's world, too. I just didn't want to do it exactly the same. I knew I could do that. I could write Percy Jackson 6 and Percy Jackson 7, Percy Jackson 25. Here comes the Minotaur again. But I kind of wanted to explore his world from a new point of view. And that's where I came up with the Heroes of Olympus with 7 different demigods. What was I thinking? 7? That's way too many, right? And I had to figure out
Wrong!
But you know, I mean, it's like having kids. Once you have the kids, you can't imagine your life without them. And I love all 7 of the demigods. And my favorites, I mean, there's so many. Frank, Sangue. Favorite Octavia!